G'day legends, g'day superstars, Peps is back. Round 10 tips coming your way and it's all kicking off tonight. Up there in Darwin, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Gold Coast Suns versus the Hawthorn Hawks. Two teams that have been immense in 2025. The Hawks have continued their fine form from 2024, and you could say the Gold Coast Suns have finally flourished under the tutelage of the great Damien Hardwick. It's going to be a humid, it's going to be a hotly debated contest up there, and I'm going to have to go with the Gold Coast Suns simply because they are more acclimatised to the conditions, they are used to the conditions, and both teams coming off the same 5-day break. I think that the Gold Coast Suns will be more in tune to the conditions that are going to be up there. I think this is going to be an absolute ripper-dipper, and I can't see it being separated by more than 2 goals up there to kick off your Thursday night football up there at TIO Stadium. Rightio, let's get into Friday night. Sydney Swans, Carlton Blues, 7:40 p.m. at the SCG. Sydney, very, very up and down. Carlton, very, very down and up. It's been a real interesting mix with these two teams so far this year. Under Cox and under Voss, both teams haven't performed to the expectations that we thought they would get to. But when I have a look at the two teams and the way they're performing, I've got a bit of a sneaky suspicion that the Swans are going to beat Carlton this weekend. Now, normally, if this was being played down at the MCG or Marvel, I would go with the Swans. But the Swans at the SCG, I think, are just a little bit of a different team to be up against. They've got more confidence up there. I also think they play play the ground pretty well as well. Don't take that away from Carlton. Can they cause a massive upset? Yes, they can. But with the Swans only being on 3 wins so far in 2025, they've got a lot that they need to live up to. And I think this is going to be the game. I don't think it's going to kickstart their season, but it's just going to maybe put a bit of a dent in Carlton getting that momentum that we think that they are going to strive towards that final 8 position. So I'm going by the Swans. And I reckon this might be a 3 or 4 goaler and cause a bit of a surprise for the rest of the league. Not for Sydney, because we don't think that they're going to do much after the start that they've had, but I'm looking more along the lines of Carlton, where they think that they're back, but they're not really. And I think the Swans are very, very excited how they're going to roll this one up. Rightio, let's get into the next game. Collingwood versus Kuwana. That is the Adelaide Crows. 1:20 p.m. Saturday, May 17th. And that's going to be the MCG. Two cracker-dacker teams. Two of the best looking, when I say from a football perspective, teams. And, you know, for the people out there, they're not too bad looking on the eye as well. But I'm really interested to see whether Adelaide can take their pretty good form in 2025 on the road to the MCG. Collingwood were immense last week against Fremantle. They were able to rest a lot of players, and they were able to get the 4 points where many people thought that they wouldn't. I actually thought Fremantle would win that one, and what a fool I am. And Adelaide, their forward line's been on fire, their midfield's been doing really, really well, and their back line's been solid throughout the season under Darren Burgess and Matthew Nicks. They are being led by a really good captain in Jared Dawson. Fogarty's been immense up there. So is Michelini. So is Thilthorpe. Don't Walker, you've got Rankin, you've got Rochelle, you've got so many, Alex Neil-Bullen, you've got so many options. But because this is at Collingwood's home ground, I'm going to go with Collingwood, but this could be a really tight one. Going no more than 2 goals and Collingwood to cement their spot at the top of the ladder, which is a little bit embarrassing for me because I actually picked them to not even make the 8. I hope it gets really cold. I hope that the bodies start to feel a bit of a twang, and make me look a little bit better towards the back end of the season. But if you have a look at their fixture, they could win virtually every game from here to the end of 2025. Right, 4:15 p.m. This one's GWS versus Walliap, which is the Fremantle Dockers. Hey, what can you say about the GWS? That was an absolute belter of a game versus Geelong. They got the win again. They're going to go back to their home ground, and Fremantle are coming from one side of the country to the other to hopefully refresh their winning stocks, and I can't see it happening. I think another week of dismal results is going to happen for Fremantle. They tease. They are fraud mantle. They are the wankers with anchors. And Jesse Hogan, my goodness, you can't keep a good man down. He was magnificent against the Giants last week, and that's why they're going to win this one, and I reckon they're going to win it quite comfortably. I'd probably see this one by 4 or 5 goals. He could potentially kick another bag, and you know what I say? A bag is 6 or more to take out another win for the Giants and just keep their press for that top 4. Keep going, and maybe put a little bit more down into Luke Jackson to stay at Fremantle and join his old team, my boys, back in the D's in 2026. All right, Port Adelaide, Yardapulti versus the Geelong Cats. Port Adelaide time being 4:15 p.m. Nice little afternoon game heading into the news. Geelong, really, really disappointing last week. They were just out-hunted, outworked, and outclassed by a GWS outfit. And let's just say Jesse Hogan got a hold of them. You've also then got Port Adelaide, who went down in the showdown, but they didn't lose any followers. They were pretty good for 3 3/4 of the game. They just happened to let it slip at the back end. So will they be able to take this form into it? I reckon Geelong are going to bounce back. I don't think Port Adelaide are as bad as people think, but I don't think they're as good as people think. And the co-host with the most, Jamie the J-Dog Wallis, would also agree with that as well. I think Geelong will have a bit of a sting in their tail after what happened against GWS, and I can't see that team being down 2 weeks in a row. Their midfield is immense. We know that Holmes has had an absolutely outstanding year. We also say that with Myers and Close running up and down those wings, it makes it really, really hard for the Port Hour on ballers to be able to follow them down. And their skill moving into the inside 50 for Stengel, for Cameron, I just think that they're unbelievable in the way that they roll things out. Horn Francis has to have a good game. There's so much pressure on Rosie. Butters, will he spread it thick or will he spread it thin? We don't know what's going to happen. And Georgiades, he needs to have another good game down forward. And Bergman running through that midfield. They're going to have a lot of hope, but I just think Geelong, after their loss last week, they've got a lot to live up for. They've got so much talent across the board. Hopefully Bailey Smith has another cracking game to make this doubter look like a complete fool. Geelong by probably no more than 2 goals. I can see a lot of these games over this weekend being really, really tight. Hey, if you reckon that weekend was an absolute cracker in terms of the football so far, have a look at this one. Western Bulldogs versus Essendon at Marvel Stadium, 7:35 p.m. Doggies been sensational all season. They have been the no-pun underdogs against the Bombers, who are starting to hit some really nice form. Got 5 wins under their belt so far, knocking on the edge of the 8. And can they take the Doggies out? Well, look, you know what? There's no reason with their form, what they've rolled up over the last number of weeks, why they can't. But I just can't go past the Dogs. I just love, since the Bont's come back, he's added just another level of thickness to that midfield. When you got Frazier, when you got Richards, when you got Liberatore, when you got Kennedy, when you got the Bont, and I could go on and on. Norton down forward. You've got Riley West doing some brilliant things down there as well too. They've just got so much to play with, and I really like the way that they're going about it. And Rory Lobb has been immense once again down back. But hey, Essendon, what could you say about them? They are being beautifully led by Zach Merritt. If there was a captain outside of Max Gawn, I think that I would love to play under. He's the guy. He goes 120 minutes back and forth up the game. He wins games off his own boot. He saves games off his own boot. And Essendon play a hell of a lot better and a hell of a lot bolder when he's having a cracker of a game. I'm going this one by no more than a goal because I think the Doggies will win. But I've been really surprised by how Essendon have been rolling through over the last number of weeks. And I'm really surprised. Hopefully, Caddy has another cracker game. And I'm really looking forward to the Kako having a breakout 2, 3, 4 goal game. And under the lid at Marvel, this is where he should be able to do it. Against the Doggies, I'm not too sure, but anything can happen because this is AFL football and it's how you want your footy tipped out, lace out style. Rightio, let's head into the Sunday games because we've got some pretty good ones at different levels. How about Richmond versus North? Could Richmond get their 4th win of the season and be ahead of teams like Melbourne, Sydney, and also North Melbourne? It could potentially happen. Could North, after potentially screwing the pooch a week ago, could they come back and strike back this week? We don't know. They should have won last week against Brisbane, but just from immaturity with their ball movement in the back half of that last quarter and some decision-making that probably wasn't too effectual, they should have won that one. And Richmond, you can almost say the same. They stole victory from the jaws of defeat due to a blistering tackle in the last minute of the game. But when I look at these two teams, I just think it's the MCG. I really rate Richmond in the way that they're playing. They've got some boldness under Uze, and I just think North Melbourne, they're just not consistent enough. They'll be buoyant by their performance last week, but they need to be doing it for longer throughout games and not just relying on the same people, Sheasel, Wardlow, etc. Wardlaw, talking about the wrestler Wardlow. Sorry about that. So I'm going with the Richmond Tigers to have another cracker, and they're going to win this probably about 2 goals. It's going to be another close game, but I really hope both supporters get out there and have a belt up of a game because these are the games that I like because they're two lower end teams, so they should be on a very similar level on how they deliver it. Rightio. Let's have a look at the Lions versus Nam, all the way up there at the Jabba the Hutt. Melbourne really, really good for 3/4. Should have been 5 goals up at 3/4 time. But as I've said for many, many years, bad kicking is bad football. And that was the epitome of it last week. Brisbane, just do Brisbane things. They win when they have to, and they did against North last week. And they should do this pretty easy against Melbourne. I'm really not feeling too good about it this week. Normally I've been feeling there's some hope. But this is the Brisbane Lions who will bounce back after last week and they'll put a point to prove to say that we are the best team in the comp and they'll do it. And Melbourne, look, they've got a pretty good record against Brisbane. They've had some really tight games. They've had the lights out game. They've also had the game that was settled by Danaher in the last couple of minutes of the game of the season last year. So they can be quite close contests. But my fear is that if Brisbane get on a roll early, I don't know how Melbourne are going to contain them. Oliver will probably do a tagging role again because Viney's still under the concussion protocols. Hopefully he would go to Neil. We just don't know. But I just don't think Melbourne are going to be able to kick a big enough score with the mob running around at the moment, which is really, really disheartening. So Brisbane, I would say maybe by 5 or 6 goals and just put another layer of pressure under Simon Goodman as well too. All right, last game for the weekend. We've got the Waladi Mawara, which is the West Coast Eagles, versus Euro Rourke, which is the St Kilda Saints, 4:40 p.m. at the Optus Stadium. The Eagles, you could say, have been disappointing. St Kilda have been up and down as well too. But the Eagles at home, here's my upset for the weekend, everybody. West Coast Eagles to beat St Kilda. Yeah, I'm calling it right now. West Coast Eagles to beat St Kilda over there at home. St Kilda, they're actually not too bad, not too shabby what they're serving up. Their young kids are pretty good, and their recruits have been pretty good as well too. But I just think that West Coast at their home, they've pushed teams previously, and this is a scalp I reckon that McWalter could see potentially that they could take. And I reckon that they're a massive chance for it as well too. I reckon it might be 3 goals. But it wouldn't be surprised if St Kilda beats them by 10. That's just the way that football goes these days. But I just think there's got to be an upset this weekend. I can't see it being North. I can't see it being Essendon. I can't see it being Fremantle. And I can't see it being the Hawks. So it has to be West Coast against St Kilda. You might think I'm a complete freak thinking that, but anything can happen. And that's why it's tipped out. And it's how you want your footy tips every single week. Right. So there are your around 10 tips for a massive week of footy. If you could do me a favor, please click the subscribe button. It would mean a hell of a lot to me. It just means the more people that join the channel, the better guests we can have, and the better content, and the more content we can deliver to you each and every single week. And make sure to join us, me and J-Dog, every Monday night here on our YouTube channel, on our Lace Out Facebook page, because we go live every single Monday 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about the great game that is AFL football, the results, the news, and we don't take it too seriously as well too, not like those other floggy shows that you're sick of. Join the chat, be part of the show. It's Lace Out, but that's tipped out. There's your round 10 tips. Hopefully your team wins. We'll see you next week.